A miraculous candlestick has appeared for the Japanese yen. After the yen weakened dramatically, reaching around 160 yen per US dollar, suddenly this miraculous red candlestick showed up. What happened was the yen strengthened rapidly within just a matter of hours, dropping from 160 yen per US dollar to around 155 yen per US dollar. Then it started moving sideways for a while until, right now, as I'm recording this, it's sitting at about 156 yen per US dollar. So, did this happen because the Japanese government intervened? Well, Japan's Ministry of Finance hasn't commented or answered any questions about it yet. But what's clear is that this happened after, about a week ago, the finance ministers of Japan and South Korea met with Janet Yellen, the US Secretary of the Treasury, to send a signal asking for help, though not an SOS kind of help. But rather, it's SOC, which stands for Safe Over Currency. But before we get into the news, how are you today? Your outfit looks great, Sai. Crowning moment, right? Let me give some credit to the person who made this outfit first. This is the work of Nong Ai, Nathanicha Singla. It's her thesis project as a student in the Faculty of Decorative Arts at Silpakorn University in the Department of Costume Design, and this is her professor. This is Professor Ekemon. Right now, I don't call myself a journalist anymore. I call myself a content creator. I'm a content creator in the finance field, and for me, finance is something that's like fun and spicy. So I just want to tell stories in a fun way, creative and imaginative. If I feel like singing, I'll sing. If I want to rap, I'll rap. Or if one day I feel like dressing up in something extravagant, I'll wear it. That's it. Now let's get back to the news. The US dollar getting this strong has made other currencies feel like they're just collapsing, like they're being scorched. For example, the Japanese yen, before it started to strengthen sharply, it had already dropped by 9% in just 1 month. The South Korean won fell by 7%. This situation led the finance ministers of both Japan and South Korea to meet with the finance minister of the United States Treasury to ask for help, basically saying, we can't take it anymore. The currencies of both countries have gotten extremely weak compared to the US dollar. That's because the DXY, the US dollar index, has been surging nonstop. Right now, the DXY is hovering around 106, or about 105, at least at the time I'm reading this. Actually, there are some upsides to a weaker currency. For example, since the yen started weakening earlier this year, it has led to Japan has been able to export a lot more goods. If you look at this graph, exports used to be around 7,000 billion yen, but now they're up to 9,400 billion yen. But honestly, if you say, hey, if a weaker currency is so good and helps exports, why aren't people okay with it? Well, a weaker currency has both pros and cons. It's a double-edged sword. And the downside is actually pretty serious because it affects Japan's domestic economy. The weaker the yen gets, the poorer people in Japan become because all imported goods get more expensive. And the imports I'm talking about aren't just luxury items. These are basic necessities of life, like energy and food. Prices for these things have skyrocketed in Japan. It means Japanese people who already pay high electricity bills have to pay even more, and food costs have gone up too. And as a result, according to a Reuters report, Japanese households have cut back their spending more than at any time in the past 35 months. If you look at this graph, Japanese households have reduced their spending by as much as minus 6.3%. Even if exports are strong and sales are high, it hasn't helped improve Japan's economy at all right now. That's why they've had to ask the United States for help. As for this so-called miracle stick, is it part of the aid from the US to Japan? I'm not really sure, and I don't know what kind of help the US would provide because right now, the yen, the won, or any other currencies seem to be weakening because they're being compared to the US dollar. Right now, the US also needs to strengthen the DXY, or the dollar index, to support its own economy. Like I mentioned in the previous episode, remember this cover here, the Fed might not cut interest rates. And if interest rates don't go down, the stock market could take a nosedive. So right now, America has to support its economy by borrowing money, and they're borrowing a ton right now. The debt is about $34.6 trillion already. As for the DXY, like I mentioned, it's also getting stronger. For 4 months straight now, it's been around 105 or 106. And when the dollar's strong like this, it doesn't just weaken the yen or the won, it's every currency that has to be compared to the US dollar, including the Thai baht. You can see it clearly from this chart. Over the past week, local Asian currencies have all weakened against the dollar as well. For Thailand, the baht has dropped by 0.713%. But if you look at where the impact is stronger, it's in Japan, right? Before the currency strengthened, over the past week, the Japanese yen dropped by 0.79%. The impact was even greater in the Philippines, where the peso fell by minus 1.8%. And in Indonesia, the rupiah dropped by as much as 2.6%. Now, if you happen to hold a lot of US government bonds, you're in luck, because the US needs to borrow a lot of money, so they have to raise bond yields. And the more the US raises bond yields, the more the prices of previously issued bonds drop. So anyone who bought a lot of US government bonds earlier has already seen their prices plummet. Now, let's take a look at which country holds the most US government bonds in the world. Drum roll, it's Japan. Japan holds the most in the world with a total value of $1.15 trillion. Now, let's look at another chart. This is a detailed chart showing the value of US bonds. So ever since the US government raised interest rates back in 2022, the prices of US government bonds issued before that have all dropped significantly, by about 10% in fact. So just count it out on your fingers. Japan currently holds about $1.15 trillion in US government bonds. If the total value drops by 10%, that means 10% of $1.15 trillion. Now, you might ask, is it really possible that the Fed won't cut interest rates? Well, it's possible because Jerome Powell has already signaled that they might not cut rates at all this year, since inflation in the US is still high. Most recently, it's climbed back up to 3.5%. And not only might they not cut rates, UBS and Citi have even said there's a risk that the US could raise interest rates to 6.5% in 2025 or next year. And this could be one of the reasons why. This is why the Bank of Thailand hasn't lowered interest rates either. The policy rate in Thailand is still at 2.5%. Keeping the policy rate high actually has its benefits too. It helps keep the gap between US and Thai interest rates from getting too wide, which helps prevent too much capital from flowing out of the country. But not lowering interest rates also affects the business sector because businesses have to bear the burden of interest payments, which means a lot of debt, right? And if their performance isn't good enough, it could mean first, a loss of profits, second, not having enough money to pay off debts, or third, possibly not having enough money to pay debts to the point of bankruptcy. Debt could be a reason why the stock market could take a sharp dive, no matter which country keeps interest rates high, including Thailand. But if you ask whether there are other ways besides raising policy interest rates that could help, capital from flowing out too heavily and still maintain the country's financial stability. Let's examine the current situation in Indonesia. The government officially announced that local businesses and corporations should reduce the amount of US dollars they purchase. Buying too many US dollars is not a wise or strategic financial decision for businesses in our country, or in other words, in Indonesia, because it will significantly devalue and weaken our currency. If you look at this chart, you'll see that the rupiah, Indonesia's currency, has also weakened significantly. So the question is, when the US dollar strengthens, does it really hurt or weaken other countries' currencies that much? The answer is, it doesn't just weaken their currencies. When the US dollar gets stronger, it also impacts GDP, especially in emerging market countries, causing their GDP to drop as well. For every 10% increase in the value of the dollar, it affects the GDP of emerging market countries by an average decrease of 1.9% within a year. If you think this clip is helpful and want to support me to keep making videos like this, it's super easy. Just hit like, subscribe, or share this with others. I'll keep making more videos for you to watch. Thank you for following Money Monster. Goodbye.